This is an All Ears English podcast, episode 300, behind the scenes of All Ears English. Welcome to the All Ears English podcast, downloaded more than 7 million times. We believe in connection, not perfection, with your American hosts, Lindsay McMahon, the English adventurer, and Michelle Kaplan, the New York radio girl, coming to you from Boston and New York City, USA.
On today's episode, you'll learn about how we created All Ears English and 6 ways to use these lessons to put your creative vision into the world.
Hey guys, before we get started with today's episode, I want to take just a minute to say thank you to the people who have helped us get here to episode 300. Thank you to my original co-host and co-founder, Gabby, who played a big role in getting us started here at All Ears English. Thank you to Michelle, the New York radio girl, my co-host on this show, and to Jessica, the examiner of excellence, my co-host over at IELTS Energy. And thanks to our awesome team, Louis, Gaspar, and Jay. All Ears English is a group effort. Our team helps us get our message of connection, not perfection, out there, and we could never do this without you guys. The first 300 episodes have been a blast, and I can't wait for the next 300. So big thank you, and let's get to the show.
Lindsay, it's a big day.
Hey, Michelle, I'm so happy to be here. I'm smiling behind the mic because it is
Episode 300.
Woo! Drum roll.
I feel like
Amazing.
I should have a kazoo and a party hat.
A kazoo. And confetti. Don't forget confetti. That would be great.
Oh, yeah. Well, of course, confetti, please.
Oh, it's great to be here. It's amazing. We've made it to episode 300. It feels good. It feels great.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, especially for you. I mean, this is, your baby from the beginning. I mean, I feel honored to be here, but gosh, you were like 300 episodes.
Yeah, it is. I consider it All Ears English a baby for sure, another child. And, because we believe in our vision here, and we want to help as many listeners as we possibly can.
Right.
It's just great to put out your vision into the world, put your creativity out there and to help people.
Yeah, definitely. So, what we wanted to do today is something special, right? Okay. We wanted to say thank you to Attila for suggesting this idea. Thanks, Attila. So what we want to do is we want to talk about how is All Ears English made, right? I especially want to ask Lindsay about like things from the beginning. And this is meant to inspire you and to give you like a framework. How are you going to put your vision into the world, right? I mean, Lindsay, honestly, like I'm very inspired by you and how you created this project. So I really, I want to find out a little bit more about it, right? So, I mean, can you tell us a little bit about, All Ears English and how it came to be?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to talk about a bunch of things today. We're going to talk about the idea and, how we came up with it, the background research for the show, the recording, the producing, the editing, the publishing, and also repeating that process. But guys, this is really about you guys. This episode is about you because we want to show you how we've taken a vision and we've put it into the world. And therefore, we want you guys to think about your vision in your life. For example, maybe you're starting a business. I know we have a couple of listeners who have started their own podcast, like John in Barcelona. We know that he has a podcast of his own. Shout out to John. We know that you guys are putting your work out there in the world, but maybe you're not a business owner. Fine. Maybe you're an artist and you're working on a painting. Maybe you're a singer and you're recording a song. Maybe you want to change your career. What else, Michelle?
Yeah. I mean, maybe you want to travel the world, right? Maybe you want to move somewhere, right? Basically any kind of risk, like anything that's different from the norm, right? This is what we want to talk about.
Yeah. And so we want you guys to think about your project and your vision, your risk and your dream when we talk about, how we built All Ears English. So, all right, let's get into it, Michelle. I mean, what should we start with? I mean, what do you want to know?
Yeah, well, I mean, gosh, because I wasn't here from the beginning, so I want to know a little bit, like, about the beginning, like the birth of All Ears English, like about the idea, for example, right? Where did the idea come from?
Yeah, well, I would say that I was just feeling frustrated with what I had seen in terms of the way that people are learning English now. So I had worked in schools and I had seen that students are very frustrated with what's working and not working right now in terms of learning English. And I also had been listening to a lot of podcasts and I thought, wow, maybe I could start my own podcast, So I could see that, it would take some dedication, but just getting a microphone and getting started was it. So the point here, guys, and how this applies to your life and your vision is that, follow your intuition. So if you hear that little voice, that voice is not going to be screaming at you, right, Michelle? That's the important thing to think about. The voice is like a patient voice in the back of your mind.
Lindsay.
Yeah, exactly. Someone is talking to you. I sound crazy right now, right? But it's true. We know everyone has heard that voice. And the problem is most people ignore that voice. Most people go to the practical side of life. They say, I have bills to pay, or I've always had a job, so I can't change my life now. So if you do listen to that voice, you will certainly feel the rewards of it. And reach out for help. Like, you can't do anything by yourself. So, I reached out, I talked to some other podcasters and, I found a partner and started working with her. And, I couldn't do it by myself. Mm-hmm. I acknowledge that. It's impossible to do things on your own. It needs to be a team effort.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, wow. I mean, I think that's great that you noticed that there was a need for this type of thing. And that, I think students do get frustrated. I mean, I love my students and I love my teaching, but it's hard, some people, they don't necessarily respond well, like always to like a classroom atmosphere, and they need or they need something to add to it, right? They want something like that they can just, listen to any time and gain something that way. And I think that was really great that you were able to, fill a need.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Look at what is needed in the world. And again, that little voice in your head, it will come back if it's a true message that you're supposed to be following. This sounds kind of mystical, but if it really is kind of a calling for you, it's going to keep coming back. So don't ignore it.
Yeah. Okay, great. So, I mean, well, about how it came to be, what about background research?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing here that we want to emphasize for our listeners when they're starting their projects and what we did is we need to avoid analysis paralysis. Analysis paralysis is the kiss of death, isn't it, Michelle?
Yes, definitely. What is analysis paralysis?
Well, in this case, for All Ears English, I could have spent months and months researching every podcast in ESL, every ESL venture, every company, every angle, every niche. But I didn't do that. We didn't do that. Instead, we did a little bit of research to see, okay, yes, other people are doing this. We use that as validation that there is kind of a need and people are downloading these types of podcasts. And then we just got started. So we didn't distract ourselves or procrastinate with, looking for enough evidence to support this risk. No, because the voice at least inside of me, I can't speak for my partner at that time, but inside of me was telling me to move forward.
Right. Okay, awesome. Yeah. So, now I want to hear a little bit about, the recording and creating the episodes and producing. I mean, I definitely have some knowledge of this, but how did you get all that started? Because there's a whole technical aspect and a creative aspect and all these different things. So how did that all come together?
Yeah, I don't know, Michelle, have you ever read anything by Seth Godin? Do you know who that is?
I know who he is through you. I know you're like very, very inspired by He's your guy.
I'm a fan of Seth Godin, and I want to encourage our listeners, if you guys are working on any kind of creative project, you need to pick up some of Seth Godin's work because he talks about the dip. Michelle, what is a dip?
It's like kind of like a sinking down, like a
sinking,
yeah.
A sinking. And I would say that, we hit a dip, in our first 3 months of producing this project. And we've talked about this in other episodes, but actually All Ears English almost never existed because we had many challenges. We couldn't get the audio right. We had the wrong format. There is a learning curve, right? In English, we can say there's a learning curve. There's a learning curve to starting a show like this because it does involve technology. Right. And we didn't know anything about it. So we hit a real dip. We spent, it was one day in August. It's the most beautiful day of the summer, in the summer of 2013, recording an episode. I was actually at my parents' place at the beach and inside recording all day. And guess what we had to do with all of those episodes?
What?
Down the toilet.
Oh.
We had to throw them out. 8 hours of recording down the toilet. We had to flush it.
Oh.
Why? Because it wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
It wasn't good enough. The quality was not what we wanted to put out, and we had to start over.
Wow. No, oh gosh. I'm just thinking of like, when I've been working on an essay or anything and then like the computer just like stops and everything is just, like you said, down the toilet, and it's incredibly frustrating.
Guys, if episode 300 is inspiring you to go out and put your vision into the world, or if you love All Ears English, then why not share it with one person who you know will also love All Ears English? So go ahead and hit the share button in your podcast app now. Send it to someone by text, by email, by Twitter, or by Facebook. Let's share All Ears English and get the message of connection, not perfection, out there. Thanks, guys. Yeah. So guys, we want to encourage you, if you are putting out, a painting, or if you're trying to change your career, you're trying to travel the world and you're preparing, you're planning, you're going to hit a dip. You're going to hit it. And you have to believe that your intuition, your vision is stronger than the dip. So what we did was we just kept pushing. We showed up, the next week and we recorded those episodes again, started over with number 1.
Yeah.
So that's what you have to do. There's no other choice.
So those were literally the first episodes, or that happened?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I think we recorded the first episodes. Like originally we wanted to do longer episodes, 25, 30-minute episodes. And then we shared our work with a couple of students, and the students said, no. You need to change this. You need better quality. You need it to be shorter. And we said, okay, throwing this out, starting over.
Yeah, that was probably hard.
That was hard, but it's not hard because in the long run, your product is much better than it would have been, right?
Right, exactly. Sometimes you need to do something that's a little bit difficult to make your future better, right? So even though it was frustrating that day, in the long run, it's probably for the best. I have a student, like such an inspiring student. He just quit his job because he said it wasn't what he wanted. Like that's not the right thing for his life. And now he can use this time to learn English more to get a better job in the future, right? So it's hard at the moment, but then you are able to, do good things, in the long term.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, it sounds like the theme here is honoring your vision. Like honor what's inside of you, what you believe you have to give to the world, and consider that important, Don't downplay it. Don't ignore it.
Right. Exactly. Definitely. I'm feeling inspired so far.
Okay. So what else do you want to know?
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess I just want to know about like editing, like the editing process, right?
Yeah, totally. I mean, for this one, I would say that quality is king. Just we try not to get lazy, and it might sound like this is at odds with our vision of connection, not perfection, but it's not really at odds with that vision, because it's an idea of taking pride and considering your work art. Right? When we put something out into the world, it is a piece of art that comes from us. So we do want to pay a lot of attention to quality, but we don't have an attitude of perfectionism. So it's a tricky balance between the two. And for our listeners, if they are, again, trying to start a business, if they're trying to, take any kind of risk, we've got to strike that balance between perfectionism and quality is king.
Right. Yeah, you definitely want to put out a product that you're proud of. And, wow, that was a lot of P's. Put out a product that you're proud of. You definitely want to do that. But like, I think that you almost become somewhat of a robot if everything has to be perfect all the time.
Yeah. And people want to see your human side, right? So if we were perfect, we wouldn't have a connection with our listeners.
Right.
Because we are human. I mean, we're all human and we make mistakes, and that is fine. But in the end, we are trying to put out a high quality podcast. And that's very important.
Right. You know, it makes me, I don't know, it makes me think of, I don't know if you ever watched Saturday Night Live.
Not really, but what did you see on there?
No, it just makes me think of Jimmy Fallon because he was famous for laughing in every single sketch, and he could never be perfect in it because he was just like laughing, and you know, but it was endearing, you know, like it was endearing to show that
totally,
like, you know, that he's not perfect and that he thinks it's funny too, and you know, now he's like one of the biggest names in entertainment, and it just, you know, I think people like to see that you're a human, that you do make mistakes, right, and you want to be proud of your work, but it's okay sometimes to, you know, it, like you say, I really believe in connection, not perfection.
Yeah, like you don't take yourself too seriously, right? I mean, that's why Jimmy Fallon is so cool. Like he actually does laugh. Like you can tell he's really enjoying what he's doing.
Yes. So anyway, think of Jimmy Fallon. No, but it's true. Everybody, I mean, some people found it annoying, but I loved when he would laugh because it was just so funny. Like, wow, he's a real person.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, totally. That's a good example, Michelle. I like that.
Thank you very much. Okay. So yeah. So I also want to know about like the publishing process, right? I mean, there's just so much that goes into it.
Yeah, this is huge. Now this, in my mind, this is the crucial moment, you know, for our listeners. If you've basically finished, let's imagine one of our listeners is a painter and our listener has finished the painting. Okay. But now it's time to put the final touches and actually show it to the world. This is the moment when the world sees your art. And it's the crucial moment where a lot of people actually sabotage themselves. They don't publish. They don't ship, right? Seth Godin uses the term to ship your product, to send it out into the world, that in that moment, you're very vulnerable, right? You're vulnerable because anyone can come and judge what you've created.
Ugh.
So guys, if you're building a business, if you're going, even, you know, going to an interview is a way of shipping because you are putting yourself on the line. You're making yourself vulnerable to rejection, to criticism, to failure. And, you know, Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn, says that if you aren't embarrassed by your first version of your product, then you've launched too late. And again, this sounds like it's at odds with what we've just said, that quality is king. But again, it's striking that balance between putting out something, you know, as efficiently as possible and moving through the fears, but also looking for the quality. So guys, we want to just encourage you, whatever it is that you're working on, just ship it, send it out there. And that's what we do, because that's why we publish 4 times a week. So we don't get stuck in fear.
Right. Well, this, for me personally, I think about songwriting. Because,
yeah, that's a great point. Yeah.
I mean, songwriting is literally like, I mean, just telling the world, you know, anything like personal about yourself and trying to kind of hide it in different, you know, flowery language. And
yeah. So do you get scared? I mean, do you face any fears in the moment of shipping, of publishing?
Constantly. I mean, I'm learning a lot from this actually, because I think I've definitely become frozen because I'm afraid of, oh, well, like, especially for example, if I'm sharing something, if I'm playing a song for a friend or something, it's more scary. It's like a scarier idea for me to play a song I wrote to somebody I know than to a complete stranger, because for me, I feel like, oh, well, what if they know what I'm talking about? It's, you know, like telling all my like deepest, darkest secrets and like putting it into metaphors.
Right. Well, and it's interesting that you probably don't have those thoughts as much while you're writing the song. Most of the thoughts probably come up just as you're about to publish your work or put your work out there. Is that right?
Yeah. But I mean, at the same time, it can even, you know, if you think of a song idea, if I think of something and then I think, oh gosh, you know, I know automatically, is it embarrassing to me? And I think that it even stops me earlier on in the process, and it's a real problem. So I mean, I like that. It's because it's really sharing my soul, you know, you know, I don't want people to think, oh, I know what she's talking about there, or, you know, it's really scary. So I can really understand this idea. And I mean, I'm very inspired by the idea of just, you know, putting it out there and just going for it, because, I think that everyone can learn a lot from that.
Absolutely. I think it's so healthy to have something in our lives where we're doing this every day. I mean, you know, that quote that we've had on this show before, you know, the credit goes to the person in the ring.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Fighting the fight, not the person standing outside and criticizing.
Yeah.
So we want you guys to keep that in mind. Thank you for sharing that example, Michelle, about songwriting. And we're waiting for your songs here on All Ears English.
Yes.
We're waiting.
It will come. It will come.
Okay.
So excellent. So I'm learning so much here. So, I wanted to ask you about the concept of you put rinse and repeat, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Continuing, right? I mean, it's one thing to put your work out there once, but it's another thing to every day go through these same fears, make yourself vulnerable. Like every morning I go and I take a walk and I listen to our episode. And sometimes I get embarrassed or I get afraid. I get scared. Oh, what are people going to think about that? Maybe I should have said that differently. But because I'm experiencing that, and you probably experience this too, like you listen to our shows and maybe you feel self-conscious. But the point is we're doing it 4 times a week. We're doing it almost every day. And that's going to build up a sense of resilience and a sense of strength in your own vision.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. You know me, Lindsay. Sometimes, we'll be recording something and I'll get nervous. Like, oh, did I say the wrong thing? Am I gonna make somebody feel a certain way? Or I get very worried. And Lindsay is always like the voice of reason. Like, it's okay.
Yeah, just say what you think, because sometimes, no matter what we do, guys, if you're putting out a painting, if you're starting a business, if you're trying to travel, you may always offend someone. There's always going to be someone who doesn't like your work, but that doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. The point is, what do you have to give to the world? What's inside of you that is actually going to, in a small way, change things in the world? And that's what we want to ask you guys to do now. So we want to know what you guys are working on. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So are you raising kids in a certain way? Are you starting a business? Are you traveling? Are you starting a relationship? Are you working on a painting, some photography? What is your creative art that you're putting out into the world? So we have a special contest, Michelle. What is this contest about?
Okay, well, because we have the exciting 300th episode, we would like you guys to write to us about, your project, right? What are you working on? Okay. All these things that Lindsay just said. So what we would like you to do is to comment on our site. And if we get 300 comments, we're going to randomly choose one and you will get 15 minutes with Lindsay on Skype.
Absolutely. But you guys have to answer 3 questions in the comments at allearsenglish.com/300. Question 1, what are you working on? Question 2, Michelle, what is it?
Okay, what challenges have you had?
And question 3, what have you learned? Okay, so we want to hear from you guys. We hope this episode has inspired you. We want to say thank you for supporting All Ears English. We're at episode 300, but we're just getting started. So don't worry, more All Ears English to come.
Yes.
And thanks for sharing your thoughts today, Michelle, also on your music writing. And, I find that inspiring too. And I certainly can't sing. I mean, that's.
Well, thank you, Lindsay. No, and I just want to, I think, I speak for myself, but I think also, for the listeners, everybody really appreciates your idea from the beginning and, going through those dips and, keeping at it. And, for me, it's just been, really wonderful so far. And I'm looking forward to episode 600.
Awesome. We'll get there. We know we will. All right. So thanks for hanging out today, Michelle. Thanks, guys, for listening. And we'll be back soon with episode 301 on the other side of 300.
Oh, yeah. All right. Party time. Have a great day, Lindsay.
All right. Take care, Michelle. Bye. Remember, guys, we want you to come back to our blog. Come back to allearsenglish.com/300. Tell us what you're working on. Tell us what challenges you have had and tell us what you've learned. When we get 300 comments, we'll choose one person randomly to meet with me on Skype to practice your English for 15 minutes. See you at allearsenglish.com/300. Thanks for listening to today's show, and be sure to come back to our website at allearsenglish.com/resources for some awesome ideas and special offers to help you get fluent. And if you believe in connection, not perfection, be sure to subscribe to our podcast on your computer or on your smartphone. See you soon.